Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So, you've seen all those ads on the internet about credit sweeps. Take your score from 500 to 740 in 3 days or less. You wonder, is that legit? I've been getting a lot of questions about this, so I figured I'd make a video about it. So let's talk about credit sweeps, the controversial credit repair technique. So let's talk a little bit about, first of all, understand that you got to have patience and persistence when it comes to credit repair and credit restoration, which is more important than credit repair. Restoration is key. The understanding is that you got to have your file cleaned up. You want to remove as many negative items as possible that impact your score and drive your score down. Then from there, you want to properly manage your accounts and then build credit by managing those accounts correctly so that the lenders will trust you and loan you more money. That takes time. Everybody knows trust takes time. You have to demonstrate your ability that they know you are willing and able to manage your credit before they trust you with more. So patience and persistence is what it takes to clean up your credit, and it's what it takes to build your credit. Because remember, you didn't mess it up overnight. You can't expect to fix it overnight. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out, because oftentimes things like these is how people get taken advantage of, is because they're being promised quick, fast miracles. I'm not going to preach anymore. So, a credit sweep is a credit repair method that involves disputing negative items on a credit report in such a way that aims to get them removed quickly, often within 30 days or less. That's a legitimate one, but people are claiming shorter times than that. It is sometimes marketed as a fast track to cleaning up your credit. But however, not all credit sweeps are legitimate, and most are even illegal. So exactly how does credit sweeps work? A credit sweep generally involves the following steps. Step 1, disputing negative items as identity theft. So many credit sweeps involve disputing with credit bureaus such as Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, the big three, and claim that derogatory accounts, late payments, charge-offs, collections, any of those things were all the result of identity theft. Now, of course, this is done through the Fair Credit Reporting Act, which is that set of laws that govern how the fact that me, you, everybody as consumers in America can dispute items on your credit report, because the first law of the Fair Credit Reporting Act is that any and all information on our credit reports must be 100% true and accurate. And then the FACT Act, which is the FACTA, which is the Fair Accurate Credit Transactions Act, which allows us the right to actually dispute fraudulent accounts, which even in a way above and beyond just disputing errors. See, it's a difference. Disputing, don't get me wrong, remember, information must be true and accurate. However, there's errors, and then there's deliberate identity theft, which is not an error, but it is a illegal act. So you are a victim of that. So the first, after that step, which is the first step being disputing the negative account as identity theft, then the next step is you file an identity theft report. So in other words, you're filing a police report. Now you're filing at the local level, so with your city that you live in. Then typically you want to file with the state that you live in, because just about every state in the country has a state agency or department within an agency that handles identity theft. It's that widespread of a problem. So you would want to file your identity theft claim at the state level, and then you want to file your identity theft claim at the federal level through the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. They have a special department just for identity theft victims. So that way, if folks who have stolen your identity, if they're operating locally, whether they're operating throughout your state or across country, you have the agencies in place that can watch them once you've been on that list and they start to see activity all over the place, and you're being filtered in through there. So it's important to do that for that reason. But also understand that, once a claim of identity theft is made, that the credit bureaus must block the disputed accounts while they're investigating the validity of the claim of identity theft and investigating with the creditor to see what measures they took to verify the identity of the person that they extended the credit to. Now, some of the credit sweep companies encourage, some even assist consumers in filing a false police report or a false FTC identity theft report, stating that they did not authorize any of the items that they're disputing, and that those negative accounts are not theirs. So once they do that, typically by law under the FACTA Act, once a claim of identity theft is made, the credit bureaus must block the disputed accounts while investigating. No ifs, ands, or buts. So while the accounts are being blocked, they're not being factored into your credit score, and so you get a rise in your credit score, although it may be temporary if it's not validated. So, having said that, one more thing. The companies that do that, many of them claim, that's what they claim, they can fix your credit in 4 days, because under the FACTA Act, the credit bureaus are supposed to remove it. They're supposed to resolve these type of claims within 4 days, unlike a normal dispute where they got 30 days to investigate. If we're disputing errors or something like that, they got 30 days, but with identity theft, 4 days. So when you see those companies out there claiming they can clean up your credit in 4 days, this is what they plan on doing, because that is the only way that your credit report can be impacted in 4 days is through this. Now, of course, if you weren't a victim of identity theft, they're going to give you a 4-day credit bump illegally, and then you're going to be subject to that too if it's proven that you knew that it was filed, because they're telling you to file something that you can't possibly. The only way you can't file a police report and not know it's a police report for identity theft. So if you do that, you're subjecting yourself to criminal action. So let's go more into that, because I just stepped into the world of illegal credit sweeps. So let me show you the difference between legal versus illegal credit sweeps. So legitimate credit sweeps involve a person who is a real victim of identity theft. Now, they have the right to dispute fraudulent accounts. They most certainly should file a police report at the local level and file with the Ohio Attorney's General, not Ohio, but the state Attorney General's office in the state that they live in, and most certainly file at the federal level with the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC. That is most likely. Not only do they have a right to do it, it's the best thing to do, especially when towards being absolved of the financial obligation. Not only that, and then having your credit remedied in that way, fixed. So, filing a legitimate identity theft report with the FTC and law enforcement is an appropriate step. So not only do they have a right to do it, it's a legal right, it's also the appropriate step. That's what I do. I had a client about a year ago, about this time last year. He first came to me. He was a victim of identity theft. He had not one, not two, but 3 accounts with the same buy now, pay later firm that somebody filed on his behalf, and he was trying to get that among with a few other items off his credit report. And so when he came to me, he had already filed the police report. So he had a municipal police report. That was great. There was some new items that came along, so he had to update his report to add new items since his original filing a few months prior. But then I encouraged him, which he did, to go a step further and file at the state level. He lives in Alabama, So file at the state level with the Attorney General's office, and then with the FTC at the federal level. And then we submitted all that documentation to the credit bureaus. Well, we submitted what we had, but I told them it didn't take long to do it, but we submitted all of that to the credit bureaus. They immediately wiped all of those fraudulent accounts off while they were being investigated. And then so short term, less than 30 days, we did get those removed while it was being investigated, and then subsequently he did get notification that those items were permanently removed because the information that the creditors had on file when they extended credit showed IDs with a different person, didn't even look anything like him, so on and so forth. So that's how you fix a legitimate identity theft sweep. That's how you sweep legitimate identity theft items on the credit report. And this is totally legal. That's totally lawful. Now, illegal or risky credit sweeps start out almost always with a false identity theft claim. So if someone knowingly disputes accurate accounts as fraud when they were actually responsible for them, is considered credit fraud, which is illegal. And that is just as illegal as the person who did identity theft on a real identity theft perpetrator. This is just as illegal. Filing fake police reports. Of course, some of these unethical companies encourage clients to file false reports, which of course can lead to criminal charges at the local level. Okay, and then federal crime risk. Again, reporting to the FTC false information, that's a federal crime. So you could be looking at federal, state, and local criminal charges for filing false reports in order to try to get your credit cleaned up. I don't know about you. I can't see it being worth all that. Good credit is important and all of that, but your credit won't be any good anyway if it's towed up from fraud and you're in jail. You don't have no use for it anyway. So I'm just saying it ain't worth it to me. So needless to say. So risk and consequences of credit sweeps, and I mean the illegal ones, of course. The aforementioned potential legal trouble, filing false identity theft reports, federal charges, state charges, local charges. You could be banned from disputing accounts ever again. So even if you don't go to jail, the credit bureaus, if they suspect abuse in this way, especially to the point where you're filing false reports, they could actually put a block on your file, which will not allow you to basically dispute anything ever again. So if down in the future you had real credit errors or real items, they may dispute you because you become the boy or girl who cried wolf. Denial of credit applications. Many lenders, and this is another thing when it comes to these credit sweeps. When someone is doing this, they're usually doing it because they're trying to do some transaction and they don't want to wait. But problem is, if someone cleans up your credit this quick using this method, it's going to raise a red flag with just about any underwriter, whether it's an automobile lending underwriter. I know they do a lot of things automated, but they still have a person who looks at it, a credit manager at least. In mortgage, you're going to have a mortgage underwriter that's going to look at your file no matter what. That's just standard practice. A live person looks at this, and if they may see. And that's why in mortgage, when you apply, and if they look at your credit and they see items on your credit report being disputed, you won't be able to go forward in your application until those disputes are either resolved or dropped, so that they'll know whether these items under dispute are legitimate negative items that must be considered in the loan decision. So you can't even have disputes on your credit when you're applying for a mortgage. So credit sweeps don't help there anyway. Even if it worked, even if you didn't get arrested, even if you got through, in a mortgage situation, they're going to be issues because all those disputes have to be removed. So they have to be resolved or dropped. and then they look at your credit score with those items being considered. And then lastly, you could end up with a permanent credit report freeze on the bureaus, basically locking up your credit and making you have to jump through a lot of hoops to get your credit unfrozen so that you can apply for something and get a loan decision. So that's just, things you want to not do. That's why it's not worth it to do it illegally, and understand that that's what these folks are doing. So what are some safe alternatives to credit sweeps? Instead of taking risky shortcuts, consider some legal repair methods, such as traditional credit dispute, where we're challenging errors, we're challenging old accounts, we're challenging illegal third-party collection efforts, we're challenging collection efforts from creditors who did not update correctly. Then we talk about goodwill letters, where we got minor negative items on credit, such as a 30-day late in the last 36 months on an account, and you had a unusual situation that made you go beyond the 30-day late, where we asked the creditor, hey, as a goodwill customer service effort, can you take this 130-day late off? And if you got a good history with them and they value as a customer, they'll remove it. Now, they won't give you another one, but they'll remove that one if you haven't had one in recent times. And then pay to delete agreements. We do that all the time, where once we've investigated an account, we make sure that it is your account. We make sure that we know exactly how much you owe. We make sure we know who you owe, and that it's a legitimate debt, and that it's validated and verified properly in those ways. And then we say, okay, this is a debt of mine. I may have to consider paying this, because remember, the goal is to clean up your credit. So if you got to pay off some minor debt to clean up your credit, the only important thing is that we follow through and get the accounts updated properly so that you can benefit from paying off that debt through negative information being removed, and then you get a rise to your credit score. Of course, there's always debt settlement, but remember, you have to be careful with debt settlement, because many debt settlement programs, services, and actions have a negative impact on your credit. So you want to be sure that if you're settling debt, that they're still going to allow you to clean up your credit, whether it's your workout agreement or a payment plan, something like that. You just want to make sure that in the process of working out this agreement, how do they intend to report your credit going forward till that's resolved. You want to make sure that they're not going to report your partial payments or your modified payments as being less than satisfied, because it's not what you agreed to. So you want to make sure they either stop reporting or they report and reflect that. And if you're making any payment plans, they often don't want to update the information until it's done. And then lastly, you want to build positive credit, but remember, it's very, very, a lot of people want to think that it's counterintuitive though, but they want to think that, I can just start doing positive things to my credit, like try to get new accounts and things like that, and that'll offset the negative credit that was on there. Well, you got to kind of do both, because yes, it's great you want to build credit, but you got to address these negative items first, and for a couple of reasons. Because number one, as long as you have these negative items on here, you got a negative foundation. I always use that house building or that house renovation metaphor, where if the foundation for your credit report, your information on your credit from today going forward is based on these negative items, that's a bad foundation, and anything you build on top of that, it's going to be difficult. How difficult? How? Well, I'll tell you this. First of all, is if you got collections on your credit for delinquent credit card accounts, right? They're right there in black and white for the world to see. And then you go out and you're trying to apply for new credit cards. What are they going to look at? any creditor, any bank, any lender that's trying to consider you for a credit card application, they're going to look at your credit and they're going to see, oh, the last 1, 2, or 3 credit cards you got, you went delinquent on those, now they're in collections. So they're either going to say no to your new credit card application at best, but at worst, they're going to say no. At best, they may say, okay, we'll give you a secured card. You can put $300 down, and then they won't trust you beyond that until you demonstrate. So, but more than likely, if you got multiple delinquent credit card collections already and they're not paid and not been addressed, you're not going to get a new credit card. It's a few out there that would do it, but they want money. So because they'll take a deposit, and then the minute you go belly up, they'll just take your deposit to pay off any delinquent amounts. So you're going to be limited in your credit building efforts as long as you still got these negative items in your collections that haven't been tackled yet. That's number one. Number two, you can try adding someone adding you as an authorized user. But remember, credit trade lines and all that stuff don't work anymore because they know that's, and many of them consider it illegal as well. But the key is, unless someone is an immediate family member, anybody adding you as an authorized user, if they're not your immediate family, there's not a familial tie, the credit model, they're going to, on the back end, and you don't see it, they're going to ignore it anyway. You won't get much credit for that. That's why credit, buying trade lines and all that stuff doesn't work anymore, because the algorithm, they do a check now. They can check instantly to see if that person, if you as the consumer, what your familiar relationship is to this person. Because remember, in the background, we got secondary bureaus like LexisNexis. They know all your business. They know your family tree and all that stuff, and they can immediately tell if this person who you're an authorized user, if that person is a relative of yours. And if it's not, there's a back end little code that they put in that basically ignores that, and so you don't get credit for that anyway. So if you see people out there still trying to sell trade lines to help you boost your credit, they're just the only thing they're going to do is take your money. And then, but that's how you do with building positive credit. I was going to say one other thing, but it's not. I'm going to leave that for another video. So basically, my final thoughts are, while credit sweeps may seem like a quick fix, they sound good on paper. It sounds great. You can get your credit done quickly. I can pretty much tell you that any and all promises of fixing your credit always have a string attached to them, and most of those strings lead down a path of fraud or scam. So they seem like a quick fix. They come with significant risk, especially if not done properly or legally. Now, if you are the real victim of identity theft, you should absolutely dispute fraudulent accounts through proper legal channels. However, if you're looking for fast credit repair through fraudulent means, you can end up in a lot more trouble than just having a low credit score. So my best advice is stick to legal credit repair strategies and focus on long-term financial health, and instead of shortcuts, instead of hacks, and any of those things that, number one, could backfire and land you in jail, and not only that, losing your dollars. So hopefully you found this video helpful. Please like and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Please comment in below. Continue to tell me what you guys want to know. Give me questions, and so I can talk about the items that are most on your mind when it comes to trying to fix, improve, build your credit. So talk to you soon.